Welcome to this week's look at the state of the New York City real estate market, where I take a look at the luxury market, the Manhattan market, and the Brooklyn market. I do it because I want you to be informed. It never hurts when you're a consumer to be informed. Thanks for joining me for this week's look at the state of the New York City real estate market. We're going to be looking at the luxury market, the Manhattan market, and the Brooklyn market. I'm going to be breaking down for you exactly what happened in terms of supply, demand, contract activity, where we think this market is going. And as always, this is the very latest news on what is happening in the real estate market here in New York City. Let's get started. Let's start with the luxury market. There were 39 contracts signed in the luxury market last week. So again, luxury in Manhattan are properties that are priced at $4 million and above. So there were 39 contracts signed last week. There were 4 fewer than the previous week. And last week, as I mentioned, it was the highest total so far this year. The condos outsold co-ops 24-9, and there were 6 townhouses in the mix. So here's something interesting, and this is a bit of a repeat of what we saw last week. So remember last week I told you that we were seeing most of the contract activity, let's say on the lower end. So there were no properties that went into contract that were priced at $10 million and above. This week, 20 properties were priced at $5 million and below. So this is a bit of a shift. Most of the contract activity that we've been seeing in these many months have been in what we refer to as trophy properties. So those properties that are priced at $10 million and above. So let's take a look at what happened last week. The number one contract was Penthouse A at 100 11th Avenue. It was asking $22.5 million, reduced from $25 million when it was listed in October. The seller paid $19,397,663 in March of 2010. The penthouse has 4,675 square feet with 14-foot ceilings, showcasing spectacular views of the Hudson River. Has 3 bedrooms, 3.5 bathrooms, and a roof terrace with an outdoor kitchen spanning over 3,700 square feet. The building is curve in shape. It is designed by Pritzker Prize-winning architect Jean Nouvel. It's distinctive for its facade that is comprised of 1,650 different-sized panes of glass. Amenities in this 57-unit condo include a doorman, concierge, fitness center, and a 70-foot lap pool. The number 2 contract was a townhouse at 114 East 65th Street, asking $17.5 million. It has been on and off the market since February 2019, when it originally was listed at $19.995 million. The seller is Deandra Douglas, the ex-wife of actor Michael Douglas, who purchased the house for $15.52 million in May of 2007. It has 8,000 square feet, including 5 bedrooms, 5.5 bathrooms, 8 fireplaces, and an elevator. If you're curious, the annual property taxes for this house are $123,137. Okay, let's take a look at some of the statistics for last week. The total weekly asking price sales volume, $271,630,000. The average asking price, $6,964,872. The median asking price, $4.995 million. The average discount from original asking price to the last asking price is 7%. We're going to talk about that in a second. And the average days on the market, 567. We are now seeing what looks to be the beginning of a shift in the luxury market. We are seeing, at least this week, a little more negotiability, 7%. 1 week does not a trend make, but let's see what happens with that Because here's the other thing that we are now seeing. This is the second week in a row that we are seeing that the properties priced at $10 million and above are no longer leading the charge in terms of signed contracts in the luxury market. What does that mean? Well, you're going to have to stay tuned to find out. If I had to predict, I would say it is truly the beginning of a shift. It doesn't mean that nobody's going to buy properties at 10 million above. Clearly not, because the top two contracts were over 10 million, but we're seeing a decline. Part of that might have to do with the fact that some of that inventory has been absorbed. Some of it may have to do with we've kind of dried up in that buyer pool, not completely, but maybe there aren't as many buyers swimming around out there looking to make deals at 10 million and above. In any event, nice brisk contract activity in the luxury market, as we have been seeing 39 contracts signed last week in Manhattan in the luxury market. Okay, that is it for the luxury section of our report. So what happened in the Manhattan market last week? Let's take a look. The supply changed last week. It went up 13% by 567 properties coming on the market. Contracts signed also up 1.17%, 346 contracts signed. Continues to be a seller's market within reason. Sellers, as long as you're priced at around 2018, 2019 prices, you should do fine. Let's take a deeper dive. We're going to take a look at the supply, the demand, new listings, and contracts signed. Let's start with the supply. The supply activity is improving and definitely ticking up. Overall, our supply remains lower than in 2019 and 2021. You notice that I skipped 2020. We're not really going to look at that because 2020 was an unusual year, kind of an aberration, so we're not going to include it. Now let's take a look at the demand. We saw pending sales leveling off last week as our spring market, this high season, is kind of peaking. With regard to new listings, the new listings, as I mentioned, are definitely keeping a pace and even a little bit ahead of 2019 and 2021, which is a really good thing. It's helping to make up for where we were lagging in terms of inventory. And the contract signed continues really at an impressive pace. It continues to hold above recent trends, as you'll see in the chart. We're going to talk about something else that we haven't really looked at in a while, and that has to do with, and we do look at every week, we look at the discounts that are happening at all different price points. What we usually don't look at, but I'm going to share those charts with you today, are the market-wide price cuts. What we're seeing is that there are price cuts that are happening across the board at all price points. Why? Very likely that the sellers know that is in their best interest to adjust their prices now while we're still in the spring market, before we get into the summer, before the interest rates go up any further. So take a look. Very interesting. Will be very interesting to see how this plays out. So if you're a seller, hopefully this will help you. If you've been on the market for several weeks, you're not getting a lot of showings, you're not getting the activity that you want, and you're not getting, most importantly, the offers that you want. Think seriously, think long and hard about adjusting your prices, because your property is worth the most in the first 30 days of being on the market. That is how you're going to make the most money. If you're sitting out there at a price that doesn't work, it is not going to get any better. The market is not going in that direction. It is not going up. If anything, a lot of sellers, as you'll see in this report, are making adjustments to their prices. Why? They want to get their deal done before everybody goes on summer vacation. I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news. I would love to always bring you the best possible news, but mostly what I want to do is bring you the news that will help you make the best decisions so that you can be successful. So it may not be the news you want to hear, but it's the news you need to know. Okay, that's it for Manhattan. Let's take a look at Brooklyn. Well, we saw supply go up 1.66% with 307 properties coming on the market. The contracts signed were 204. Now that was down almost 6%, but I've shared some charts with you that I think are noteworthy, and they speak to a slightly longer period than just a 1 week look. And I think it's important to include those, just as I did for Manhattan. The supply. Brooklyn's active inventory essentially is going sideways. We are seeing new properties coming on the market, but it's not an impressive number, and it's just at a time when we know demand is high. Speaking of demand, the pending sales in Brooklyn ticked up again as the market nears the peak of its busy spring season. Now, talking about new listings, the pace of new listings is above the average for the last 2 years if we ignore 2020. The rate of new supply, though, is lower than it was in 2021. Ignoring 2020, 2022's contract signed pace appears to be lagging 2021 as the busy season peaks. Brooklyn price cuts, we are not seeing a lot. When we compare it with Manhattan, the prices for the co-ops and condos in Brooklyn remain remarkably low. And again, remarkably low for Brooklyn historically, you'll see by the chart. Also, when you compare it with Manhattan, seems that Brooklyn continues to be the favored borough in the eyes of the buyers, at least for now. So let's see a little more about that. But let's take a look also at price cuts for townhouses. They remain lower than average, but the median cut ticked up to nearly 5%. What do I think about that? I mean, my 2 cents is that because of the frothiness of the Brooklyn market, sellers got a little ahead of their skis, thought they would go out with some ambitious pricing. Some of those sellers did realize those ambitious prices, but those were typically very special homes, ones that had a big buyer pool. They were renovated, ready to go, and buyers got very excited and began competing for them. They didn't care that they were paying perhaps a little more than they thought it was worth. Whereas the properties that are not as desirable don't do as well when they are priced too ambitiously. Something to think about. Okay, that's this week's look at the state of the New York City real estate market. I bring you the latest news here in New York City, why these are big decisions that buyers and sellers are making, and I want people to have the information that they need to be able to make an informed decision, make the best decision possible. If you have any questions, post them below, reach out to me. If you're interested in this kind of look at the market, feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Always feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to speak with you about any of your real estate questions. I'll be back next week with more up-to-the-minute news about the state of the New York City real estate market. In the meantime, take care.